9:30 on October 18th, 2018. We will open this meeting of the Yamhill County Transit Area Board of Directors. I would like at this point in time to consider the approval of the minutes from the August 30th, 2018 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Also moved.
It's been moved that we approve the minutes from the August 30th meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved. At this point in time, I would like to open the floor to public comment. Do I have any, I don't have any requests to make a public comment. So seeing none, we will move to item number 3 on our agenda, which is the Transit Development Plan final draft discussion and adoption. And for this portion of the meeting, I would like to ask our transit director, Cynthia, to take it over.
Good morning.
Morning.
First thing I wanted to say was thank you to both Stan and Rick, and you guys have been very involved from the very beginning and as liaison to transit, and I appreciate that. That doesn't always happen. It's been a long process, like 21 months of planning and reaching out to a broad segment of the community in Yamhill County. I think our original stakeholder list was 300 people or organizations. We did try pretty hard to get education and business, but we weren't able to get them to be involved as much as we would have liked, but we did get quite a bit done. And just for the record, I thought I'd just go through sort of a very brief summary of kind of what the process was and what we came up with. So you obviously know we hired Nelson Nygaard. They did a really fabulous job. We've been very pleased with them. Back in, I think we kicked the project off in February of 2017. We actually applied for the grant almost a year before that, but by the time we got the scope of work and everything, it took about a year, and we kicked it off February of 2017. And their first task was they looked at our existing system, looked at the existing conditions, and summarized that in reports all along the way. They did tech memos, which there were 5 of them until you ended up with the final document. And they updated you as a board and as the commissioners throughout the process. So they looked at existing conditions, and then they created sort of a planning framework of how we would go forward. And then we obviously had quite a bit of public input and looked at all the different areas and what the strategies should be for service going forward. And they came up with those, and then that was vetted by the Yamhill County Transit Advisory Committee, along with additional members, which we called the PAC, Project Advisory Committee. We also had a project website throughout the process so that the public could be informed. And we attempted to put all the documents that happened along the way so people could go to that site and get information. And so in the end, they came up with the final plan, and I think it's a really good plan. It has a lot of things that I actually didn't think we would be able to get included, just because the scope, we had to kind of pare it back in the beginning just to keep within the grant amount. But things that I think are notable for you to remember as you go forward is there's a whole section on land use and guidance for code for cities and things like that. It isn't super detailed, but it's enough detail that I think it gives guidance to other communities when they're doing new development, how to think about transit and what that means. There's also a performance monitoring program in the plan, so we can look at routes as we do these new improvements. Because we have this new funding, we can say, okay, let's say we started a new route here, and we can look at ridership and a whole variety of measurements and see how we think that service is doing, and then assess that. And then if the board decides, it really isn't performing the way we want, then we have some guidance to how to deal with that. What else did I want to say about it? I guess the main thing is, I think the timing has been really, really good, because you've had a system in place for a long time, actually, if you count the time that you had all the nonprofits providing service. But since the county's been responsible and contracting with the service provider, I think it's the perfect time to have a plan done, because you really have now a foundation, and no matter who sits in this seat or I currently sit, if you remember this is here, you can go back to it, and it's a very good foundation and a starting point. Sure, things are going to change, but the county's not going to change significantly, and you always have a place to go back. If you just remember it, keep it as a living document. And I think that's really got to be your jobs as the board of directors for the district. And also, there's a recommendation here that all the cities within Yamhill County adopt this document as their guidance for transit in their community. I mean, essentially, you as the board of directors are adopting it for the district, which includes all 10 cities, but it would probably be nice to have them formally actually adopt it. Some cities have more requirement and more guidance and goals and policies regarding transit than others. Obviously, Newburgh and McMinnville are bigger cities, so they have more. But I think it's a really, really good starting place, and I'm proud of everybody who worked on it. And it took a lot of people and a lot of time and energy by community members. I mean, we went to numerous events, and Friends of the Bus were involved, and lots of citizens, and they rallied people, and it was quite a process. Probably the best one I think I've ever been involved in, and I've been involved in quite a few over the years. So I'm pleased, and I'm pleased that it's finished, and I can focus on actually implementing something, which I know would make some of our riders very happy. So I think that covers what I wanted to say, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you for your. Go ahead.
Just a comment that you indicated that that document is there, and you hope we refer back to it at some time. I'm hoping it's a working document and not a shelf document. A lot of work did go into it, a lot of input, a lot of hours, and it can move us forward, and it does give us the flexibility to look at. Obviously, anytime you create a plan like that, it has shortcomings, weaknesses, things that will need to be addressed, and the plan is flexible enough to allow us to do that. It gives the board the ability to go in and say, Jay, we need to take a look at this route. We need to take a look at how we're providing services to this community. It does allow that. So I'm very pleased with the outcome, and I do know there's a significant amount of public input to it. But I just wanted to thank you, Cynthia, for the amount of time, energy, effort, and just blood, sweat, and tears that you put into it. Thank you very much.
I just want to echo that, Commissioner. Just the commitment and the dedication that you exhibited putting this together. It wasn't easy, but so thank you. I think it's you've been a real asset to this effort.
I'd just like to add a couple comments. Again, I'd like to thank Cynthia and Nelson Nygaard and all the consultants for the work they did on this. Even though I feel that there's some areas that the outreach could have been better, more people been involved. I talked a little bit about Tuesday, and I talked to legal counsel because it was a little confusing to me as being the commissioners acting as the board of directors of the transit area, but yet as the entity, the authorized entity, where the roles cross. Who does the financial, who does the policy, who does everything, which I still think we need to maybe in the next year or so revisit, because it's still really there's areas that are really kind of murky and who really is responsible for that. But to say that, I think the plan for the most part is really good. I think a lot of work in when I think there's some things in the plan that weren't probably addressed like they could have been, but for this discussion of the board of directors, us as the board of directors, I would be for moving this forward to the Board of Commissioners. I can tell you after talking to people yesterday that there will be people there to provide testimony, and so I will be asking when we get into the Board of Commissioners meeting that we remove it off the consent agenda for discussion. But for the purpose of the YCTA board, I think we can approve it and move it forward.
Also, I see 3 members of the Friends of the Bus back there, and they've been very active, very involved in this process, and I do want to say thank you on behalf of Yamhill County. I know that not everything that you've been hammering on and wanting is in this plan as it currently exists, but it doesn't mean that as we move forward and implement the plan, that these will not be addressed. We can find out how much the plan moved your desires forward and where the shortcomings are, and we can start working on fixes. But it's been a long process, and your input and your actions, your presence in the meetings has been appreciated. So thank you very much. I didn't want that to go unsaid. So, moving forward with that, then I would take your statement as a motion, Commissioner Olson.
Right, and I will, as I say, I'll make a motion during the regular formal to take it off the consent for discussion, but for the purpose of the White CTA Board, I will make the motion that we approve the final draft of the Transit Development Plan.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to accept this final draft to move forward to the Board of Commissioners. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I would ask for a vote of the board on that motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. So thank you very much. We will move this forward then for discussion at the Board of Directors, or the County Commissioners meeting.
I think it's important, Mr. Chair, that the audience, since they parlate, that they are aware that they will have another chance at the formal meeting if they did want to provide any comments, that they could provide comments at the formal meeting also following this meeting.
Would that be something that we could do at this point? Maybe have comment during this meeting instead of during formal?
Yes.
That's still get us to where we need to
Formal could get a
be?
little shortened by our earthquake drill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You could add another comment period to this meeting.
Yeah.
I recommend we do that then.
Okay, yes, I did, at the point of public comment on our agenda, I had no request for public comment, so consequently, we moved to the next agenda. If there is anybody who would like to make public comment at this time, we will take the time for that.
Excuse me, Commissioner, can I
Yes.
just suggest that we deal with item 4 before we get into public comment, so we at least don't have pretty much cleaned up the whole agenda? Is that okay?
I have a request that we move item 4 on the agenda forward prior to reinstituting public comment time. So at this point in time, I would like to talk about the declaring 2 buses surplus, Unit 304 and 400, a 2002 Eldorado Escort and a 2004 Eldorado. And these 2 pieces are being listed as surplus so they can be sold. If there's any further discussion? Hearing none, I would like to ask for a vote of the board. All in favor of declaring these surplus, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. With that, then, we will move those 2 to surplus so they can be disposed of. And with that, I did see somebody jump up and fill out an intent to speak card, so if you would make sure that Carolina gets those requests, but in the sake of...
Mine's for the next meeting, so I guess there's a different form. We have to wait.
No.
Martha, if you fill
No,
that
this
out,
is
you can-
strictly
you can
in
come
relationship
forward.
to the
Just the
bus.
just transit.
Just
Yeah,
bus.
I'll wait till 10.
You gotta wait till the 10 o'clock
Yeah,
meeting.
I don't know.
Okay, so she get these back.
You
Yes.
want to go first? You can all do it.
Nice try.
Yeah, really.
If you would please state your, give those to Carolina. And state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Martha O'Donnell, Friends of the Bus. Thank you for your comment. Yes, Cynthia did work hard at the end here, and that's great. And we still have some holes that need to be taken care of. Since the accident 2 days ago on 99 behind 99, I think it's important for you to know, 2 years ago, I pointed out that that was a unsafe spot for the bus. And had a solution, and yes, they made the solution, but they don't, rather than what we wanted was to go by Winco at the door, then drive over to Walmart at the door, and then go out at the light, rather than be on 99, because one of our members in the group, who isn't here today because I forgot to call him, Jean in the wheelchair, 2 years ago at that particular stop, it wasn't a car accident, but it was because the roadway was, the walkway was icy. When he got off the bus, he rolled down the embankment down into the parking lot behind, and it took 5 people off the bus to help him get back up. Now, this is just 2 incidences, but it's not a safe area, and like this area where he slid down, the other area that's not safe that everyone's ignoring is at Walmart. And there is a big culvert there, and that's where the bus stops. And the city needs to put more fencing in to protect the people. And it isn't just people in wheelchairs, it's people like me.
Well, if you want correction, I believe you mean Walgreens and not
Walgreens,
Walmart.
what did I say?
Walmart.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
That's right, I just wanted to clarify.
No, you're right. Okay, so I just am concerned, there was 6 years ago or 5 years ago, Florence is the expert on that, since I've only been doing this for 3 years. But it really, it's dangerous, but years ago, the bus transit used to go, turn off of Fellows, turn left, not go through Linfield, and turn left, and they had to walk across, and they took it all out and switched it to the other side, which is dangerous. And we wanted it to switch back to Baker instead of Adams. So that's just my comment for today.
Where Baker Street, when you talk about Baker Street, that's in front of the old school where the pullout actually is for buses. There used to be a school right there on the Baker, going north on Baker, across from Walgreens.
Well, the hospital was there.
The earthquake of,
I think that was Old Columbus.
Yeah, the Columbus School was there.
But that's where the turnout for the bus was on that side.
Yeah.
I went that route this morning at 7:30 and they don't pick anybody up
You mean through Linfield?
through Linfield.
Yeah, I know. That's another thing. I wasn't going to talk about that, but because I'm on to safety now at the moment. I could let Florence talk about that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martha. And again, thank you for all your time and energy that you put into this.
Thanks.
If you just state your name and address for the record, please, Florence.
Florence Hoffman, 1025 Tall Oaks Drive.
Thank you.
I went to the meeting yesterday and I hoped I'd hear something about the things that were carried over and caused this transportation to exist 20-some years ago. They were dependent on helping the elderly be independent and emotionally sound by getting out and getting around and socializing. And I didn't hear anything to that effect. And I was very sad. And I think you ought to reconsider the importance of the elderly in this community. Now, do you want to talk about the Walgreens stop? Because right now, it's a miracle nobody's gone off into the Cozine. It's serious.
So, are you making a note of that, Cynthia? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So, were those concerns brought up during this process? They were, and they were,
They're addressed in the plan. The Big Five stop, we talked to Winco about going in front of their store. We originally talked about going behind their store, but they were deliveries during the day, so there's discussion about whether we have a special place in the parking lot, or so we have to finish that discussion before we can implement it. The plan is to go through Winco. The Walgreens, if I remember correctly, I may not have this right, but I believe when we're looking at all the new routes, we're adding buses in McMinnville in that near-term phase. We're altering that route so you won't have a stop at that location. It's pretty expensive to fix that stop. You'd have to, there isn't, she's correct, there isn't a lot of room, and to actually make it so that it's the way you want it to be would cost more than it's probably worth. It's better to change the route and not have to stop there than it is to fix the stop.
And I think that what Cynthia is saying is, since that is on the state highway, there's the permitting process from ODOT to get that to anything.
There's also not a lot of.
We do along that. I know last year, when I was transit liaison before Commissioner Primisich took over, I brought up there were 3 places, I think, in McMinnville that really created safety concern. That something was just going to be a matter of time before somebody gets hurt. Was Big Five, was the Walgreens situation, and in front of Bymart. And I think there's plans to do something about those 3, isn't there, Cynthia, in the current plan?
In the plan, yeah.
so, to your points, yes, it's frustrating to have to wait, but I think we've all come to find that whenever you have a number of different government entities involved in trying to fix a problem, it can take longer than what we would hope, so just know that it is being addressed.
As it stands, you can move the bus stop down to the fence. That's safer than going off the cliff into the cosine. If you're in a wheelchair, or if your blood pressure isn't acting up.
I think with that thing that would concern me is knowing ODOT, and I think Commissioner Primisich and I and Commissioner Terry all know how ODOT operates. I'm surprised ODOT lets us have one there at all, because there's no designated crosswalk. There's nothing there at all. So, in addition to what Florence says about moving it farther back up, then you have the rise coming over right there. And I'm not so sure that would actually alleviate
Be any safer,
problem.
yeah.
No,
It
if
would
you go
actually
back
be
to the
safer.
fence, you can see the traffic coming better.
But can the traffic see you, the bus is pulled over?
They can't
That's
see you
the question.
where it is now.
Well, I know, I'm just saying, but when you deal with ODOT and stuff, it is pretty difficult. But I agree with you that is a very dangerous stop, Florence, so.
The easiest way to correct it is to have the bus turn left on after it leaves Fellows, as it did 6 years ago.
Well, it is an issue that we are aware of. This is quite obvious, and we will be looking at what are the solutions and how can we implement them in the near term.
We have been bringing this up for 6 years.
Oh, I understand that, Florence, and this plan has been being hashed out for 2 years, but we are getting to the point now where the plan is going to be implemented, and we can start addressing some of these concerns. Now, obviously, we will not be addressing every concern that every bus rider has, but we're going to certainly attempt to make this the most efficient and effective transit system that we can. And hearing your concerns is part of that process. So we are not ignoring the issue. As Commissioner Olson pointed out, he looked at it significantly when he was the liaison, and it is on our list of corrective measures. But again, movement in government does take a lot more time than most of us would like to see.
That was a very well-used stop. In fact, it probably has a lot to do with how less the people are using Route 3. It was a very, and then the stop in front of the waterfall. That's what brought people on that route. And when they couldn't get there, they found another way.
I think if I can address one thing Florence said, Mr. Chair, is that I do believe all of us as commissioners and as the board of YCTA take safety as our number one concern with the plan. And so anything we do, I think we'll have to address that safety issue as our number one priority. So.
For the sake of time, I do have another intent to speak card, so Jody, if you wanted to...
Jody, was that for the formal, though? You were going to speak during the formal. This is the YCA.
I did not follow the right protocol. I would like to...
Well, it just said it was to YCTA, and so we had reopened the public comment portion of this meeting.
So I'm sorry, I should not have...
Yeah, if we can hold that till the formal meeting, then,
Okay.
what she's requesting.
Yeah, well, it has to do with the YCTA issue.
Yes.
We can take it now, that's why we changed the...
Do you have anybody else
format.
coming, Jody?
No, I have statements to read.
Okay, you can do it now.
If you would, we're going to have we could possibly have a shortened
Yes, I
formal
realize that.
because of the
Sign on the
earthquake
door,
drill, so, yeah.
Can you hear me?
If you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Jody Christensen, Executive Director of the McMinnville Economic Development Partnership. The address is 231 Northeast 5th Street, McMinnville, 97128. I'm here today primarily to speak to you about the importance of an effective and efficient transportation system, transit system for the community, and I just wanted to share some items of note as you move forward in the planning for the future of Yamhill County's transit system. There are several key factors that I would hope that you would consider as you're building this system out. Number one, Yamhill County has 3 opportunity zones. These zones are going to attract a significant amount of private investment and likely will create new employment centers, which will require an efficient and effective transit system to move people around the county. In McMinnville's Opportunity Zone, it includes 90 acres on Highway 18 that is currently a vacant site. We have several people looking at that now. Our Opportunity Zone goes all the way from the airport, includes the 90 acres, all the way up Highway Lafayette Avenue and the industrial park. Our industrial park is a large employment area for McMinnville. Our airport is the 3rd busiest regional airport in the state. There's significant activity out there. These opportunity zones are going to accelerate the investment in those areas, and I believe it will have a significant impact on the way that people move around our county. There are 2 announcements that just came out about developments in our industrial park, both 26 acres and 28 acres. Both the owners of those properties have indicated they will be developing those, and they have companies that are lined up to be tenants in those facilities, again, increasing the employment in our industrial area. There's a significant challenge in our community around housing, but also the interconnectivity between transportation and housing areas. As you may know, there's a lot of what it's called smart growth planning in our communities now, and really trying to create less traffic and more systems, using systems like biking and bus systems to move people around. Workforce housing programs often require a bus service component to it, so they're multimodal. So your plan will have a significant impact on communities' abilities to be able to access some of these programs. If they do not have an effective transportation system to these new housing developments, that will put them at a disadvantage for accessing these funds. Also, it's important to remember that in Yamhill County, there's a significant amount of commuting going around. The largest commuting population into McMinnville is from Yamhill County. So people are not coming from other counties, they're moving from within this county to find work and to be working. So to have an effective system, we need to be very forward-thinking in innovation around, should we be looking at park and ride? Should we be looking at the way we schedule transportation so that we're fitting more in line with work schedules, so that the bus system can become a fully realized infrastructure in this county to be able to help move people around to and from work. I reached out to 2 organizations that I work with on a regular basis. The first organization is Chemeketa Community College. I asked them, what are their challenges around transportation? Paul Davis responded, one challenge we are having is the bus stops running when we still have classes going on in the evening. Students must leave class early, which is not an optimum learning strategy, to catch the last bus or not take evening classes at all. So it's having an impact on their ability to further their education. He also stated West Valley students and tribal members have said that they've had to get up extremely early to catch several different buses to make it to campus for an 8:30 morning class. So West Valley has some challenges in being connected to the resources in our county, and it's important to understand that's having an impact on Chemeketa's student population. I asked Megget Polymers and Composites to provide a statement, and at this time I'd like to read a statement. I also have a copy.
Yeah,
Okay,
if you,
how do?
Madam Chair, I am eating into your board time, which is a
Okay, I can give you a copy. This is stating that they have had significant issues in parking. They are willing to partner with the county in a variety of solutions to effectively increase their ability to have a transit system stop by their location. They're willing to fund passes for their employees. They are not hiring because they've run out of parking.
Okay.
That's a significant issue. I wanted you to consider that as you build out your transit area committee, and that you have their voices, those voices of education and industry, heard during those important meetings that are taking place. They're going to be informing you what's needed in the future, and you want to make sure that they're represented, that you have business, workforce, and education represented on that committee. That's what I ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
Thanks, Jody.
With that, I am going to, if you'd give those to Carolina. Thank you, Jody. I'm going to close this meeting of the YCTA Board, and I thank everybody for their participation and their information.
All righty. I've got one of these. You can keep that. I'll take that. Okay. Everybody ready to go? All right. Okay. Well, at this time, we will call to order the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal session for October 18th, 2018, and we'll have the flag salute. McKaylee, would you lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have an invocation? Okay. All right. At this time, we have set aside for public comment, and it is for anything that is except an agenda item, but we're going to be pulling that off our agenda, so we've got some comments on...
This is not on the agenda.
This is not on the agenda, and that is, that's not on the agenda either.
Correct.
So we're good.
And you need to remind folks about the...
Okay. So just to let everybody know, we're on a sort of a tightened schedule because we have an earthquake drill at 10:18. So I'm going to just, we'll start with public comment, and if you would keep your comments to 3 minutes as per our usual format, and then we'll move on to our consent agenda. So our first intent to speak is Jennifer Redmond Noble. Jennifer, if you would give us your name and your address for the record. Nice to see you. Hi.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Redmond Noble. I live at 13500 Southwest Peavine Road in McMinnville. And I'm here talking about predator control. We are having an enormous increase in cougar deaths on our farm for our sheep. I found 8 carcasses that are absolutely cougar kills. If you're familiar with predators, cougars tend to kill by they bite the top of the head, they tuck the head under the body, there's claw marks down the body. And I have found 8 of my large ewes, over 200-pound ewes, killed this way since April. And I've lost another 5 or 6 that I have never found. It's on a fairly large acreage up there, and the cougars also will take them off. And so neighbors up there have called and said, hey, we just saw a female cougar with 2 nearly grown cubs run right across Peavine in front of us onto your property, and other people on their cam live right next door to us up the road, caught 2 very large adult cougars up there. I'm here as what are we going to kind of do going forward? We have a very large cougar population suddenly in the state, and that's different than we've always had coyotes. We've had smaller predators. Now, I mean, it almost becomes a little bit of a public safety issue because, we know that cougars certainly will stalk people. And just the expertise to be able to hunt these animals. We're kind of at a loss in our county. We don't really have anyone to call in this county. I mean, I know we haven't had a county trapper for quite a few years, and I'm not necessarily advocating that. I know we're not going to get back a fully funded county trapper. I mean, I would be happy to pay my share if we had someone available within the county who had the expertise when we get these large predators that are coming after our livestock and endangering our families at the same time. My son was out running, ran into a cougar a couple of years ago. We're seeing more and more cougars right in people's near their yards up on Peavine, and I think we just need to know what we're going to do going forward before maybe it becomes. I mean, I've got an epidemic with my sheep. I'm having to shut them in the barn every night. I have to keep every animal shut in with high fencing, and during the day I haven't had mainly a nocturnal predator, but that's something I've never had to do ever. And so we're just concerned going forward what might be a remedy for all of us going forward, and have someone that we would know to help us.
Well, and I feel your pain because I have also interfaced 2 times unexpectedly with cougar on my property. So I know, I didn't realize it was that bad. We're in discussions now, which is going to be a board discussion item next week. We ran out of time this week, but we've actually, our administrator has been looking into it. We've been approached by people with similar concerns. We've looked into historically what our past practice has been, and we do have several options.
Correct. And you'll be discussing what we did in the past and what your options would be going forward.
And we do have a number of
Thursday
options.
at the meeting.
Actually, we'll be talking about this on Tuesday, but this is good timing for your input, so we can bring that into our discussion on Tuesday. So thank you for that.
And any action that we take would happen next Thursday. The informal session on Tuesdays where we discuss items that we would bring to the commission for.
So we'll be talking about it on Tuesday.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, okay. Is that an open meeting?
Yes, it's at 1:30 in the Commissioners' meeting room in the White House.
Oh, okay.
Anyone can come to that meeting.
Right.
Great. Well,
Thanks for
so
coming.
much.
Appreciate it. I'm sorry
Thank you
about
very
your
much.
losing those ewes. That's got to be disturbing. Thank you. Mary Bryant, just a reminder, we do have a 3-minute time limit. And, okay. So if you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Mary Bryant. It's 6395 Northwest High Heaven Road. And I'm here to discuss High Heaven Road. It's a public road, as you know, and it's been gated and locked. There's signs that have been put up that state, at one point it said dead end, now it says dead end and no outlet, and there's trespassing signs at the end of the road threatening you if you do go in. It also tells you to contact WY Recreation Northwest to pay a lease to go in, which I did, so I contacted them. Unfortunately, the lease has been spoken for. It's thousands of dollars. Estacade is about $4,000. This again is to access the public road on High Heaven Road, which I've lived on for almost 21 years. I've been in the county for 26 years. My husband's commuted from the City of Portland Fire Department during that time. We haven't had cougars, luckily, but we do have a lot of coyotes. Anyway, I did talk to the city council yesterday. I emailed Mary. I talked to Stan twice. I was handed over to Ken Huffer. And I just feel like it's not going to go anywhere like it has all the other times that I've brought this up. In 2016, I called 911. We had a fire up there. My husband was at the fire department in Portland, and I felt like I was trapped, which is on the 911 recording. Unfortunately, the brush caught fire. It was a car that had come up, blown tires, and the brush had caught fire below my house. That is an outlet, despite this sign that they have. This is the sign a few days ago when I told the county, it says no outlet, dead end, no dumping. Now, after contacting Ken a few hours later, it just says no outlet. So it's the same day, it's us coming home from dinner a few hours later. The problem with that is there is an outlet, that's our only outlet, and we can get out that way to two different areas. And the reason we moved up there a zillion years ago, it feels like, is my husband could use the road, drive over to BLM land, which is on High Heaven Road and which is open to the public, off the public road. And now what he has to do is go all the way down and around, hours out to somewhere else to hunt. But the agreement, the original agreement with the county, which I was referred to in '01, stated, and it's not with Weyerhaeuser, it's with Willamette, who no longer owns the property, and everything's being run totally different. I find fault with this agreement because from what I've been told legally, you can put a gate or a cattle guard on a county road, but you can't lock it. And you can't put signs up saying public can't come in. The reason for that code, ORS 368056, it was for Eastern Oregon and places that ran cattle, and they go, okay, you can put this cattle guard on the public road, or you can put a gate up, but you can't tell people to stay out. So the city councilor that I talked to yesterday argued two different points. He said, read this, it says we can do whatever we want. I said, no, keep reading. It says, conditions on the permit under this section, oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I'm nervous. There goes my time.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mrs. Bryant, I just want to let you know that County Council has spent some time on this, and our Deputy Administrator has significant history with this type of an issue and has been dealing with this. So there is an effort made to address this, and you weren't handed off. I think we're finding the best option to find a way to address this so that it does actually get resolved. So please know that there's been a significant amount of discussion amongst all of us on how we can address this.
I hope so, because the Public Works, when I called the road department, they argued for a week and a half that it's a private road. And so it's frustrating to me that that's what happens when you make an agreement that's open-ended with somebody that doesn't own property anymore, and you never check back on it. So now somebody in Idaho could be leasing that for $4,000 a year, but I can't get out in case of a fire. And as of 2 days ago, Weyerhaeuser...
Mrs. Bryan, I'm sorry, we're out of time. We are addressing, I promise you, our Deputy Administrator...
You will be getting back to me then. You will be...
Yeah, I'd like to know that too, what she can expect about when somebody will get back to her.
Yeah, well, the thing is that this is not one of those things where we can give you an easy answer. It's been days where we've all really spent hours on this. It's not been ignored. It's something we have spent hours on. So, Commissioner, to your question, it's not been something that anybody has put on the back burner, and I'll let Mr. Huffer address that.
Oh, no, I don't think so, but I think somebody to keep her updated and said, this is what we've done.
And that's what we've been doing.
Far. She has been.
We've been getting, yes, we have.
In fact,
what I was told yesterday, was that you guys get to decide if you're going to do anything about it or not.
Yeah.
That's what I was told, was that if you decide that you...
Mrs. Bryan, I'm sorry, but I'm going to let Mr. Huffer address this because we are out of time.
Okay.
Well, as I mentioned before, and I've been sharing information, and County Council and I have been talking. I've got a meeting/conference call scheduled today with a representative from Weyerhaeuser that I'll be speaking to get more information on the gate and the rules and their thoughts. And then I was going to circle back with County Council, because then the next question is process, is once I have that information, what type of process the board is going to want to explore for opening, whether or not we reopen the issue, reconsider the request, or consider a request to remove the gate. So we're still working on process and still collecting information, and I should, based on my conversation today, I'm hoping to get more background, because again, this was approved in 2001, and a lot of us were not in our roles that we were in when this decision was made, so I'm trying to make sure that I collect all the information and taking it very seriously. And
I've asked for a key, just to have on the record a key, I've been asking for the last 3 weeks. And the gate, leave the gate if you want, in my opinion, but leave it on
Mrs.
the
Bryan,
is legal.
I'm sorry, we're going to have to
Thank you.
continue this
Yeah.
on another time.
Earthquake.
Thank you so much.
Hazard day.
All right, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve anything to be removed from the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I would recommend that we remove item number, I'll have comments with item number 4 now that Jody has a deal, but I think we can leave it on the consent agenda.
You want to leave it on the consent
Yes,
agenda?
I would like to make some comments.
So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion to approve the consent agenda, item B. And did you want to make comment?
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and vote on that.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Motion to approve item B. All those in favor, any further discussion? This might be where you'd want to...
Sure. I am a little concerned with some of the comments Jody made. I say most of my comments will be directed to item D when we get to item D under old other business. But I do believe there are some holes in our transit plan, and I do believe that there has to be some commitment by the board and the transit agency to look at some of those holes, and not like Commissioner Permasic said, it's not a plan to be sat on the shelf, that we look at some of those holes and determine what holes exist and amend our plan to do that. I think that's going to be critical. And that my other comment is for the short, if we approve this, for the short, at least the short-term solutions that have been identified in the plan, that we actually set the outcomes and the dates and when some of those things can be completed, so we're not sitting here a year from now and saying, yeah, they're short-term, but they haven't been done yet. Or, yeah, it's short-term, but we don't have a status. So I'm very conscious of the fact that some of the things we're setting in our plan, that we do assign outcomes and dates to when those things are going to be completed. So that's the only comment I have.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, I just, this YCTA plan process has been going on for 2 years. It's been heavily advertised, and we now are here approving it, and now people are coming forward with all the shortcomings of the plan. I would like to have seen these same people addressing these issues as we were developing the plan. Now, that being said, I think it's critical that we address these issues, and as we implement the plan, we take into consideration how do we adjust working together with Chemeketa to the point being made about the class times. Transit, we have taken into consideration the time people have to be at a number of different locations with one bus. What adjustments can Chemeketa make in their class schedule, maybe start that class 15, 20 an hour earlier, and make it so we can align, and can we do any adjustment with bus schedules? So these are certainly critical issues that need to be addressed, and it's not a question of, okay, let's change this plan now because we didn't look at it during the planning process, but let's see how we can work with these entities. Putting a person on the board from that entity isn't going to fix that problem. What's going to fix the problem is looking at what exactly is the problem and how adjustments can be made. So I appreciate the comments, Commissioner Olson, and the comments that Jody made, I think, are very, very valid and important.
Madam Chair, it's time for the earthquake drill.
All right, so we're going to have to adjourn and then come back to finish our meeting and take an earthquake drill.
I didn't hear the alarm go off.
I didn't either.
It's time to, we're going to reconvene. It's 10:30. We'll reconvene the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal session for October 18th, 2018. And we were at the point of, where were we? We were discussing the consent agenda. We had an item that we were discussing on the consent agenda. And Counselor, you wanted to discuss item 1 under contracts?
Make one small change. I'd ask that the board can leave this on the consent agenda, but just approve that item subject to the final review and approval of my office. We're working with Joe on a couple of modifications to the contract.
So do we need a revised motion?
Yeah, if you would just approve it, you could leave it on the consent agenda, but with that modification, I think would be fine.
Okay.
Commissioners had already voted, however, on the
I
consent.
think they were still discussing.
No, we voted to approve the consent agenda.
We had already voted.
You had already voted, and then they were discussing after the vote.
Oh, is that how it happened?
Yes.
You called for the vote, but the
Well, that's highly out of
the chair
order, but-
asked for discussion, but we never did actually.
There's nothing
vote.
materially different
No,
in this. It's
you were
typical
just
of what
having
we-
discussion
Yeah,
after the
You called
fact.
for the vote, and then we went to discussion, but we never really actually voted.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes.
The
Yeah,
discussion happened after the vote?
Yes.
Yeah, we do things a little different here.
It wasn't quite
No.
as it normally is.
We had,
That
yeah,
happened in the first meeting,
no, on the
but it
second.
happened, okay.
There's
So-
no difference.
Yeah,
No.
if there are any, if in the end there are any material modifications, I'll bring it back to the board and you can reconsider it.
Okay, great. So where are we? So,
Old business.
old business, we have none. Now we're going to go on to item D, which is the consideration of the designation of 2 seats on the Yamhill County Transit Advisory Committee, YCTAC Workforce and/or Education, CTE.
Madam Chair, I'd like to start out the discussion on that. As I mentioned Tuesday, that I believe that those 2 seats are noted, and especially after Jody, I even feel more strongly after Jody's comments. I think it's a lot different than to be proactive in putting people from those sectors on the board so they can stay up with the transportation than being reactive. And because since they're not, those areas aren't represented on the advisory board, they won't get input a lot of other things, and they won't know how to give input because they're not on the board. So I feel very strongly about it, and I know it'll come to a vote, but I that's what I think it should, that I'm going to make a motion that we add 2 seats on the Transit Advisory Committee and modify the bylaws to reflect that, one for workforce and one for education, CTE.
So we have a motion. Any further discussion?
Yes, I would like to discuss that. I'm, as I indicated earlier, I believe strongly that we do need to align our services with the transit to accommodate those areas that are most needed. And I don't think the board, that as it's made up today, ignores that at all. But that being said, we were under a timeline to get this board put together because we do have the opportunity to receive substantial dollars out of the transportation package, 2017 transportation package. And in order to do that by November 1st, we had put together our plan. So your suggestions are certainly appreciated and duly noted, but at this point in time, I would want us to move forward. We can always go back and review and look at the idea of expanding this board, but at this point in time, I would not want to do that because it would necessitate going out, finding those people, and having a meeting and appointing them, getting the board structured, and that, with the timeline we have between now and November 1, I don't think it would be practical. So,
Commissioner, just a point.
Excuse me, Cynthia, would you mind joining us? A couple of questions. Did you say, maybe I misunderstood, that during the process of trying to get input from education that you were not successful in having anybody interested in joining this process?
During the transit planning process, we came up with a stakeholder list. I wanted to have an education, both college and high school, and the school district. So I actually called them personally, sent emails, seeing if any of them would serve on the PAC, the Project Advisory Committee, and then I got a hold of the Chamber of Commerce. Well, I asked for names from Newburgh City Council, from Scott Essen for Newburgh, somebody that would be a good business rep, and he actually gave me a name, and we actually put her on the PAC, but then she didn't ever attend any meetings. I don't know Jody, so I don't remember ever having Jody on the list. I did mention to Jody just a minute ago that there is information in the plan about future growth areas, and I wasn't familiar. I don't think we specifically talked about opportunity zones, but definitely looked at knowing that the areas she mentioned we do show as areas that will have growth in the future. One other thing I would just point out is that, remember this committee that we have, their terms expire June 30th. So the plan is so that we can get the application submitted by November 1st, then all of the members who are currently on it can either reapply to be on it long-term and do a 3-year term, or we can also have others apply. So if Jody or other people are interested in applying, then the board can select who you'd like to have on the committee. Personally, I'd like to keep it to 9 just because it's a little more manageable, because it's 9 plus the liaison and others, so you end up with, 12. But I agree with Commissioner Olson. I would like to have an education rep or a business rep and maybe a low-income rep that's more involved in that area than what we currently have. But I guess we have a good mix.
So can I just one follow-up question? Cynthia, so this process of gathering information for this plan went on how long?
We kicked it off February 1st, I think it was, 2017.
Okay, so this is a process that's been going on for quite a while. We've had requests for education to be involved. We're not successful in getting anybody to show any interest in that. As far as these other concerns, it wasn't a secret that we were doing this plan, right? So all these other areas of growth and different employers and things, it's not like there was no effort to include them in the process. We've got 9 members, plus a liaison. Anybody who serves on any number of boards knows what it's like when you have a lot of people. It sometimes can get a little chaotic.
I said 9, it's 11, excuse me.
It's 11, so we have 11.
It's 11, actually.
And you'd be going to
13.
To 13. Okay, which seems a bit excessive. I'd made a comment during informal that I think what happens is we feel like anymore that we have to, we can't possibly represent the interests of any group or any subgroup unless we are that. And I think that's divided us, and it's made us, you can't possibly care about anything that you are not ultimately in that crisis. And so I think that argument really doesn't sustain adding 2 more members. I think you've left it open on the plan for us to address these other areas. We've made efforts to address these other areas. No takers, no interest. People who do say they're going to come don't come. And now all of a sudden everybody's got issues with the process, and I don't understand that. So I am echoing what Commissioner Primizic has said.
Madam Chair, I want to clarify. This isn't about the plan. I think the plan, I voted for approval of the plan, even though I thought there was, this is about the committee going forward.
Correct.
And to have those people proactively involved and not reactively involved. And right now, there's nothing in the committee that allows those people to be proactively involved in those decisions, those discussions.
And to that comment, there's nothing to prevent it either. The committee is made up of several people, and they cover a broad spectrum of our community, and there is nothing to say that one of those members that over 65 or any of those other entities could not also be a business person, somebody from the industrial park out there, could not be a professor at one of the colleges. They can have multiple roles and have a variety of different interests that are, just as we all do in our community. If we're involved in our community, we don't have tunnel vision. So as Cynthia's pointed out, the terms of this committee that has been appointed, or that we're about to appoint, expire June 30th. At that point in time, they will either reapply or we will be out seeking. And at that point in time, I think we can fill the needs that we find are shortcomings and keep our committee to a workable size. I don't think we need to keep expanding the committee every time we have a need. Now, June 30th, let's make certain that as we do the recruitment, we're recruiting people in these areas, or at least reaching out and finding those interests, and make sure we incorporate it. But at this point in time, I'm not interested in expanding that committee any farther. I'm serving as a liaison. I know how invested the people who are currently on it are, and they represent different areas, and I do want to see them continue. But as we move this plan forward, then I think we'll see where we need to tweak, and we can do it.
Yeah, I need one point of clarification. Tuesday at the informal, when we just had the discussions in the informal, I thought we voted to move ahead with the committee the way it is now, based on, so it didn't keep Cynthia from having that meeting yesterday, based on whether we'd want to add more people. So I think, if I remember right, the committee, the way it sits now, is in place.
Correct.
So
Correct.
what I'm asking for is that we amend, so we're not under any deadline for the November 1st deadline, that we amend the committee to add 2 more positions. So it's not going to hold up anything that Cynthia's doing now, because we approved the committee the way it sits. What I'm making the motion of is that we amend the committee to add those 2 positions, and I'm willing to even go as far as that we amend it to add them not until June,
July 1.
and at that time they hire to let her get through this process. But I have to disagree. I appreciate Commissioner Primasic's comments, but I have to disagree. I think that if we can't get them involved in the committee proactively about filling other positions, if you look at all the positions on the board, the over 65 and the senior and disabled, so there's a lot of industrial owners and business owners that technically don't fit in any of those committees. There's only basically one they can fit into, and that's the at-large, the citizen, or whatever. There's no committee, there's no other of those there, because they're not over 65, they don't represent senior and disabled. There's really no place for them to slot them in to those. So what I was asking is to create those slots so they're on the committee, and then if they feel a need to be filled, we will, and then fill them. But I don't think there's any place to slot a lot of those people. But anyway, so I'm going to make that I'm going to make that motion, and we can bring it to a vote.
All right, so I'm going to call for the question. Commissioner Olson has suggested that we add we expand the committee to the YCTAC committee to include workforce and/or education CTE, which would bring the committee to 13. And so we've got that motion. I think we've all made our...
Right, and I just want to make sure that my amendment is that we do it at the time that the existing committees, the existing terms at the end of June expire.
Okay, so I think in light of all of the discussion that we've had regarding having reached out to education, expanded, and then the whole question about expanding this to a 13-member committee. So at this point, I'll call for the question.
Well, I'd like one other
Yes,
comment,
go ahead.
please. I would, at this point in time, I'm not in favor of doing this. I would like to revisit this as we get closer and see how this current committee is working, and then maybe revisit this as we get ready to do the appointments in June. So at this point in time, so go ahead and ask for the vote.
So at this point in time, yeah, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor of adding 2 more seats to the Yamhill County Transit Advisory Committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Same sign.
Same sign. Aye.
Or the records show that the motion did not pass. Commissioners Primozic and Starrett voting not to expand the committee, and Commissioner Olson to vote in favor. But I would say going forward, I think we need to look at how it's working. We've got June. We can pretty much determine what's going on, and then see how we can improve this going forward.
I do just want to say I appreciate my other two commissioners allowing this to be brought up for discussion and votes.
Thank you. We'll move on under other business to item D2, which is the consideration of the discussion of the approval of the opening of the OLGIF account. And Mr. Burners, did you want to make a comment about
Yeah, I mean,
that?
Madam Chair, we talked about this at the informal on Tuesday. There is a board order in the packet describing the request that came from the county treasurer to ask the board to authorize him to go ahead and open up this OLGIF account. This vote and pursuant to the written board order would be your approval of that request.
Okay, Madam Chair, based on the input from the investment committee in our discussions in the informal Tuesday, I'll make a motion that, and information submitted, that we approve the opening of an OLGIF account.
We have a motion to approve item D2. Any further discussion?
Yes, I think at the time we agreed to do this, we set a cap of 300,000.
That's correct, and that's
That is
reflected
correct.
in
It's in
the.
the board order.
Okay,
Board
I
order.
just want to make
Yes.
sure that.
It's actually 300,000 or the minimum amount required by law, whichever is less.
Okay.
And then if the investment ever were to be increased above 300,000, that would be by recommendation to the investment committee, and then that would come back to the Board of Commissioners for approval.
Very
Okay.
good, I clarified that. Thank you very much.
We have a motion to approve item D2. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Public hearings, we have none.
Commissioner, before we move on,
Yes.
past item D, I do have an add-on, and I have a memo here.
Oh, yes.
As you all know, John Phelan, Public Works Director, is currently unavailable, and so I've been assisting with some coverage out at Public Works. This week, and I have Bill here to answer any questions that may come up, but this week, while doing some work out on Laughlin Road, a finding was made, some structural issues with that bridge, and as a result, we took action yesterday to reduce the weight limit on that bridge, and it's been posted out there. But of course, we were taking that for an abundance of caution, and in order for us to implement that, the board needs to take action so we can continue that. Bill did make contact with some consultants who went out and that we use for bridge inspections. They went out and looked at the bridge yesterday. They provided some recommendations that our road crews will be implementing here in the next several days. So, but at this time, we don't know how long this limitation is going to be in effect, but we're trying to put some steps in place to get some improvements made. So, hopefully this will be a short term. Adding to it, this has been a bridge that we've had identified, and we have plans for the replacement of this bridge, and so be talking to John and Bill in the coming days about expediting that schedule and coming up with a final plan moving forward.
In fact, if I understand correctly, we already have some of the pieces that will go into the replacement of that bridge stored and ready. It's not something that just all of a sudden appeared, but the weaknesses, for caution purposes, if I'm not mistaken, the recommendation was from 5,000 to 10,000, and we chose to go with the more conservative number of 5,000. The bridge people that reviewed it yesterday?
Yes, Commissioner, that's correct. They said 5 or 10,000
Yeah.
pounds.
And
That's what we should lay out.
I would rather err on the side of caution and go with the 5,000, but
5 or 10,000 pounds or 5 tons?
Oh, excuse me, 5 to 10 tons.
Tons.
Yeah. And so consequently, the bridge is not closed, and we don't want to get to that point. We're going to do some work to stabilize and then move forward as we can put the funding together to completely replace it. So I do appreciate the fact that our Public Works Department is staying on top of things like this, that we are, again, public safety is our critical issue, and being aware of weaknesses in our infrastructure is critical to that. And so, Bill, I appreciate your efforts in making certain that we monitor and keep abreast of what's going on. But at this point in time, we do have a reduced or limited use bridge, and we need to get it taken care of as soon as possible.
We do. I did talk to Director Phelan this morning, and he's of the opinion that his engineer is pretty conservative, and yeah, engineers as a rule are pretty conservative, and I didn't fall far from that tree. This is a safe limit. We're fully covered at this limit. Could we have put it off for a while? Yeah. However, rain's in the forecast. It's October, it's Oregon. I say limit it now and be ready. But, if you wanted to lift it for a while, probably we could.
Well, I think all of us are wanting to err on the side of caution, and so at this point in time, but I do want to see us moving forward as rapidly as possible with the replacement plan on that bridge. But thank you, Ken, for bringing this forward.
Yes,
and
thank
for you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. So I have a motion to approve what we'll call item D3, which would be the approval of a weight limitation on Laughlin Bridge. Do we have any further discussion? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor of the weight limitation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you very much, Bill. Really appreciate it. And thanks, Ken, for wearing many hats, as we've heard today. Well, I guess if there's nothing else for the good of the order, we'll go ahead and adjourn today's meeting, and it is 10:52. Thank you all.